Okay, architectural design and 3D modeling students, here we go, back into Rhino 6. We're going to draw another box here, and this time we're going to use the command line, right? I actually found, as I was learning this, that the command line I used way more than actually many of these shortcut keys down here. Um, so I'm just going to type in box here, and you'll see that that shows up with a list of all these different commands, right? The lead one is box. That's the one that we want. And I'm just going to hit enter. And it says first corner of base. And so it's got some properties here, some options. So the first corner of the base I'm going to put right here. And you can see I can automatically start going with my mouse at that. Or I could go back up to my command line here where it says other corner of base or length. And I'm just going to type in 5 there. And you'll notice that, Rhino kind of sets up, a line, that line there, 5 millimeters away from the initial spot. And I'm going to hit enter. And then it's going to say, well, what would you like as your width? And I'm going to type in another 5 and hit enter. And there we go. Now we've got the size of the box there, 5 by 5 by 5. And then it's asking for the height. I'm going to stay with the 5 and hit enter. And there we go. Now we have a perfect cube. Okay, 5 by 5 by 5. This one was not quite high enough to make our perfect cube standard. Okay, so we got 2 cubes now. Big deal. You'll notice that as I select them, this array of options shows up when I have the gumball option selected. Without the gumball, with the gumball. So what is the gumball and what does it do for me? Well, if any of you've worked in any 3D environments at all, you can see and probably anticipate what these 3 arrows can do, right? There's my Y axis. I can click and drag the object along the Y axis. And you'll notice because I have grid snap on and ortho that it is snapping to each millimeter as I go. And I can release that so I can move the object. It kind of shows me the shadow of where it was, right, and where it's going. And then I can also move it along the Z-axis with this arrow, and I can move it along the X-axis with this arrow. Perfect, okay? So we know we can move it. We can also change its size. And you see these little squares, right? And they go black when I move the mouse over them. If let's say I click on the green square, which is along my Y-axis. If I click and drag that, notice what happens to my object. Same thing with the red one. Boom, boom, along the X-axis. Same thing with the blue one. Boom, boom, right? And I can even build it past where so now it's actually underneath the surface. Okay, cool. Look at that. Wow. And of course, if I make a mistake or I don't like what I've done, I can just undo, Control Z, back to where I am more comfortable or where I ceased making mistakes. So Control Z is your friend always. All right, let's get the gumball back. I'm going to escape out of this. If you're in a command up here, like I just was, that you don't want to be in, escape is how you just release and get out of that command. If you hit enter, it's going to lock you in there. So escape is the way out. Now, what else can I do with this gumball? Well, you'll notice that I have these little move options, this little move thing that shows up like a window, and that allows me to move the object along the ZY axis, anywhere along the ZY axis, okay, if I wanted to. If I change my perspective by clicking and dragging, right-clicking and dragging, I get a window that now works along the ZX axis, where I can move the object along that axis. And if I go here, then I have one that moves me along the X and the Y axis. So just by moving my perspective here, I get those little gizmos show up that allow me to move the object along a plane. Okay, and then of course you could probably anticipate what these are. These are my rotational options. So if I click on that, it allows me to rotate the object along that axis. And if I rotate it, I can rotate it along any of the three axes based on, clicking these little rotational dongles. Okay, so lots of options there with the Gumball. Another really useful one is to just, let's say I want to move it a specific length or like 1 unit over. I can click on that and just type in, 1. Or let's say I want to move it 2 units over or 2 millimeters over. I just hit 2 and boom, it moves it that number. So we can actually get very precise by clicking on it and entering in the value of how far we want to move it along that area. And if we look at my right perspective here, and let's say I want to move it, I want to move it down, 10. Oh, that was wrong. Oh, sorry. I should have gone -10, which in this case is the opposite of where the arrow's pointed. In this case, I'm going to go 20, and boom, it moves it down there. Okay, now it's 2 off, so I'm going to move it 2 back, up, and now we're back to almost baseline. Okay, cool. So, you get the idea. Using the gimbal is very useful. Another super useful tool that the gimbal provides for us is if I hit the Alt key and then drag, look what that does. It makes a copy of whatever I'm working with. So Alt drag will make a copy. And then I can hold down the Control key or the Shift key and select multiple objects and then Alt drag. And you can see I can begin to set up, very easily set up larger grid patterns and structures just by using that copy drag option in my, and here's another really useful tool. Obviously, if I want to select that, cool, I click on it, right? Hold down Shift, I can collect one by one and collect each of these, right? But let's say I want to grab all of these at once. If I go from the top and drag a box down and then release, it's only going to select the things that are fully within that selection parameter. You'll notice the top 3 are fully within that selection parameter. So starting from the top left and dragging down, okay, is going to give you just what is fully being selected. But dragging from the bottom down, look, I don't have them all selected. I'm just touching 4 of them, but when I release, it selects everything that's being touched by that bounding box. So if you want to select more, you start from the bottom right, and if you want to select only what you've got within your selection parameter, you start from the top left. All right, that's very useful. All right, cool. We got the Gumball down. We got some selection happening, making copies of things. Now, let's say we wanted to divide these up onto different, layers. If you look down here, I've just got the one layer, right? I can click here and create a new layer, and I can click it again and create another new layer and another new layer. All right, and then what I could do is I could take and color these layers. Okay, so I'm going to color that one red, and this one's going to be blue, and this one I'll color yellow. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to grab these two, and I'm going to go down here to the little layer panel as to which one's going to go in, and I'm going to select the layer 3 for those two. And you'll notice they change the same color as the layer. And then I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to put those on layer 2, and I'm going to grab these two. Oops, I grabbed the one in the back there. I didn't want to do that. I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to put those on layer 1. And look at that. So now I can actually color code some of the things, some of the objects in my 3D design, and put them on separate layers. And as long as the layer has a check mark next to it, whatever new thing I draw on the stage, let's say we were to draw another box here, you'll notice that that will, I'm sorry, that will also be yellow because the check mark is on the yellow layer. And I can name these if I wanted to, you know, box set 3 or whatever you want to call them. Okay, I can name my layers. I put the check mark next to the layer that I'm building in. And so right now I have 4 layers. I have the default layer, which has this box, and then I have the other layers that have the other colored boxes. So there you go. You know, I find that very useful to organize things according to layers. And you might find as an architect that you would be putting all of your steel girders on one layer and all of your woodwork on another layer and all of your plaster work on another layer or whatever, but you have your layers according to the materials. I can also right click on these and sort of select all of the objects on a layer, right? That's kind of useful. If the layers are all kind of intermingled and I just want to select one layer, right, I can just right click, select objects, and it's just going to select the objects that are on that layer. So cool. We're getting deeper. We're learning more. Stay tuned. We're going to keep building and learning, and Rhino 6 is going to happen for us all semester long. Thanks for watching.